My name is Mark Taggart. I'm a financial advisor. I have a company in Ottawa called Taggart Wealth and Estate Planning. I am the oldest of three siblings. Grew up in Ottawa all my life. I was about 13 years old. A bunch of us got together, went over to Hull with somebody had fake ID, and we went to one of the dépanneurs, and everybody got themselves a bottle of wine. So we started drinking it, and I think, half an hour passed, and somebody was like, "Ooh, how much have you had?" And one of the girls, I remember, pulled their bag down, and there was like, a quarter of it gone, and somebody else said blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, "Oh, look," and I slid the bag down and it was gone. And what I've learned now being in some programs is that it's very telling for someone with this disease is your first encounter with alcohol is usually something like that. It's usually once it gets into you, it just doesn't stop. And I didn't know, obviously, at the age of 13 that I had a problem. Obviously, in university, I was drinking, like everybody else. In other words, quite often, it was fun. Like I'm not gonna it was a fun time. Like I had fun with my friends. We drank lots. The difference was with me probably is I drank the most, and I didn't think it was a problem. Sometime in my mid-30s, what happened with me was after a big night of drinking, I would wake up and I would not be okay, physically and mentally. And what I know now is that I was starting to experience withdrawal from alcohol, so early stage withdrawal, which is a progression of the disease. So the disease is now taking it to another level where your body's saying, we need this stuff some more. So the symptoms of that would be horrible anxiety, rapid heart rate, horrible depression, all of a sudden it's fear, just generally feeling unwell. But I started to learn through my alcoholism that if you drink more, these things go away quick. Now alcohol becomes medicine. It's not fun, it's needed. July 9th, 2017, I was in a bad way at home, and so the negotiation was your brother will come get you. So I was fine with that. It's my brother, it's fine. So he came over, brought me to his house, and my whole family was in the living room. And what I remember of that intervention is a lot of what typically happens in an intervention, we care about you, we're worried about you, and all this stuff. And I listened to everybody. And then I was like, what's the drill? What are we gonna do? And they were like, well, there's a treatment program in Montreal that, we'd like you to go to. And I was like, okay, when's that? A couple weeks? And they're like, no, it's today. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. When's the next one? And my sister was sitting to my right, and she just said to me, Mark, how much longer do you want to feel like this? And something, we talk about in AA, some big bolt of lightning came, and it was just it resonated with me that she said that, and I was like, you're right. So I just said to her, okay, I'll go. So I was sober for about, I think it was almost 3 years, and then the lovely pandemic came along, and I struggled. In particular, in August 2020, my alcoholic brain convinced me, or I like to call it my 9-year-old self, said, hey, it's been a pretty crappy day, a pretty crappy year. You can probably have a few drinks and just blow off some steam. And so what I've learned is that your brain leaves off where you last left off with alcohol. And life was really bad, and then the Royal Ottawa Hospital called and said, hey, if you can get here in 45 minutes, we just had an open spot open up this morning. And I remember my first question was, okay, that's great, cool. How much does this cost? And they were like, it's free. And I was I almost dropped the phone. I was like, what? But what I loved about this place was when I arrived in the lobby. Within minutes, I was brought through, checked in. I was up on the hospital level, and somebody within minutes was taking my blood pressure, was checking my blood alcohol content in my breath, and just I could feel a sense of a little bit of calm coming down. Now I still had the withdrawals, but it was a little bit more calm. Within a few more minutes, I was in front of a doctor and being asked a bunch of questions, and then starting a medication course. And we had a plan in place within the first half hour I was here. This is what we're gonna do. There's so many people that go into recovery, and they go into recovery for a little bit, and then we like to say they go back out. which means you go back out into the world and start drinking again, and stumble along, and then end up in a bad place because there's such a demand out there. It's unbelievable for this type of help. And when I say that, if you want to do it privately, you got to shell out between $20,000 and $60,000 to go to these things for a couple weeks, and many people don't have that. So programs like here at the Royal Island Hospital, which are free, are covered by the government. I mean, every alcoholic would probably tell you, if you guys could invent a pill that we could take that would allow us to drink normally, as we like to say it, I'm sure we all would. It's part of the disease. Like, it's gonna happen again, where you will have a moment, usually when you're alone. A lot of guys and girls have trouble when they go on business trips with this disease because you're away from your family. Inevitably, it's like nobody will know. What's the big deal? And it's almost an insane way of thinking when you think about it. Like, look what alcohol did to me. And I'm like, well, maybe a couple of beers. What can really go wrong there? One other point I'll make is that I've been in recovery, but I'm now I'm on pause. So I'm not drinking anymore, but my disease is still progressing. So that leaves me more to say, like, if I was to drink again in 5 years and say, I'm gonna just drink, I would rapidly get back where it was and rapidly go past it. It's just something, it just progresses and progresses.